Hi, it's Mission Man, and this is my 2-week tour recap for my first ever international tour. So far, it's been Italy and Ireland. Next week, I'll be in the UK. I did 2 open stages in Italy. I had another one that didn't work, so I performed at Lake Como in the nearly freezing rain and did that video just for YouTube. You can see that in the description. I had my first Italian concert. I went to see La Rappresentante dell'Ista. It took me 3.5 hours to get 12 kilometers, and I still had to get an Uber Black the last bit of it, and then an Uber Black on the way back. I had 3 open mic nights in Dublin. One that didn't work out because I signed up too late for the one at Chennai. I'm actually going to Chennai tonight at the 15-day mark of the tour, but it was a little bit of a missed opportunity. I had a full show in Galway. Basically 3 Americans showed up toward the end of it and got a song or two. I did 150,000 steps in the first 12 days. My phone wasn't tracking my steps for the first couple of days, so I don't have those. And I had 40 pounds of luggage on while I was doing that. I have sold 1 shirt and 2 CDs so far for a total of 30 euros. I've gotten 2 $50 tips from existing fans, and that's absolutely huge. If I could do that every single day, I could tour indefinitely. $100 a day would allow me to tour indefinitely. And so huge thanks to Josh and Meyer for those $50 tips. My major goal is to tour indefinitely. So that goes a long way towards that. I've done $13 in voiceover work, and I had a $50 video editing job that has kind of been limbo. I had to deal with the train strike, a lot of mishaps, some logistical challenges, some absolutely incredible moments, and a major change in my sleep schedule. Coming up next, I will be at open mic tonight, tomorrow, and Thursday in order to promote my full show in Dublin on Sunday at the Lighthouse in Dunleary, and on Saturday I have a full show in Cork. I have 6 shows in the month of December and then 2 in the month of January. Before maybe heading back. Obviously, I want to try to book some more shows as well. Those remaining shows in order are Cork, Dublin, Swansea, which is in Wales, Amsterdam, Edinburgh, Windsor Tour, Switzerland, Berlin, and Vienna. And my return flight is currently for January 22nd. My last show is January 7th. So I'm obviously trying to add some more shows, and we'll fill in open mic nights otherwise. Also, Friday is Bandcamp Friday. So if you've ever wanted to support my music, buy my music through Bandcamp, you can do it on Friday, and all of that money goes to me. Feel free to go ahead and buy the entire catalog for about $33 and really help kick off the weekend in a great way before those 2 shows. So that's the overview. So the details on the open stage. So it's an interesting kind of app, actually. You use an app to open up a totem that allows you to then perform at these stages. And I was able to sign up as an American artist. People can tip through the app. People can see the schedule through the app. And then you can connect. I had some technical issues the first day. It turns out you can connect via Bluetooth, but I had like 30 possible Bluetooth connections. And so it took me a while to figure out which one I needed to connect with. I didn't have the proper power converter. I have this big bulky one, which is fine for most users right here in Ireland and the UK. This is the setting you want, and that's the US one, and then this is the one for Italy and the rest of the EU. That's the connection you want. Unfortunately, it was a recessed one in the open stage, so it wouldn't work because that was the wrong size. So here's the one that would have allowed me to plug into a recessed one that I ended up buying afterwards. One of those small logistical challenges. But the totem would not open at Lake Como, so I ended up using my GoPro to film myself just performing in the rain, nearly freezing rain in front of Lake Como itself. I performed Move the World, and that video, like I said, is on YouTube. There were no tips involved. Nobody actually tipped me at those, and so I didn't make any money from the open stages. But it was really neat playing in a subway station and playing a mall. It's kind of a mall. Il Mercato in Reggio Emilia, a little shopping center. My first Italian concert, I did mention, I go into a little more details on my previous blog, but as I said, it took me 3.5 hours to get the 12 kilometers, and Google Maps tried to get me to walk on the highway for the end of the directions, so that didn't work. So I had to request an Uber, and UberX doesn't exist here, so I had to get an Uber Black, and it was like 16 euros to go less than a mile. And then at the end of the night, I had to get an Uber on the way back as well. Again, Uber Black. It was 45 euros to go 12 kilometers. As an Uber driver in the States, people like to complain when it's more than $1 a mile. And so people have really gotten kind of spoiled by how cheap Uber is in the US. My first Italian concert, the actual experience, that I used music for the last 8 months or so, along with YouTube videos, Busu, Tandem, a couple other apps, watching Italian film and TV to learn Italian for about 8 months before I started the tour. And so I did have conversations in Italian with some people in Italy, and it's the first time I've traveled to a country where English wasn't the primary language, that I actually spoke some of the language. So being able to speak with people in their native language when it was my third language was a very rewarding experience, and getting to experience the concert with an Italian band where there are a bunch of obviously Italian people in Italy dancing and singing along and really getting into the music, being able to be a part of that and actually understand a good amount of what was happening was very rewarding. Definitely worth the time that I've put into it. That has been my one real touristy experience. The rest of this has been taking public transportation, and when I'm not doing open mic nights or full shows, or even on the same days that I am primarily focused on trying to make money. It's been really hard to do so, as I mentioned. Outside of those two $50 tips, which brought me up, that $100 in tips so far, I have made the $13 from voiceover work and the one video editing. But that has been kind of paused. But I haven't paid for any guided tours or for attractions. Anything that I've been seeing has been free to go around and see. My expenses really outside of that concert have really been just transportation, housing, and food related. My last day in Italy, I did deal with a train strike. I mentioned that in my last blog as well, but basically it took me to 78 euros in 7 hours to go what would have been 28 euros in 3 hours. But I made it, complete with my first RyanAir experience, where they kind of shove you into this corner and then they take you onto a bus, and the bus goes to the plane, and then there are 2 different on-ramps, and you've got their efficiency down because they are the budget airline. The only hotel that I've stayed in has been the Dublin Airport Hotel, because my flight got in around 11:30, and I didn't want to try to deal with getting into Dublin and checking in after that. So it's just like, okay, I'm going to do a hotel that night. And it wasn't that much more, maybe even been cheaper to stay at the airport hotel than it would have been to get an Airbnb in the city anyway. Speaking of Airbnbs, my most expensive has been $68 for the night in Galway. My cheapest has been $32. I've been staying at Airbnbs because I'm comfortable, staying in a stranger's apartment or a stranger's house, and just having a room to myself. I've done that enough in the States. I've slept on people's floors. I've slept in houses without electricity. I slept in my car. I slept in a minivan for a tour. So I am that level of comfortable with things. I have not been able to get myself to sleep at a hostel. I guess that's where my line is. I just can't quite bring myself to do it. And a very significant point with the hostels is if I do get voiceover work, I do need a place that's quiet enough to record my voiceover, which I can do in Airbnbs. I cannot do at hostels. For the Galway show, I honestly had never heard of Galway until Galway Girl by Ed Sheeran, but it is a beautiful town, and I'm definitely glad that I got to perform there. And I sold 2 tickets online in advance of the show and made $5.24 after Eventbrite's fees, because I think I was selling those tickets for $5 or so. And the people who bought the tickets didn't actually come to the show, but the $5 still helped out quite a bit. And 3 Americans did show up kind of at the end. There's obviously, probably you aren't familiar with the old 55, but you might be if you happen to be Irish and watching this. You have the music room kind of in the back, and then you have the front area where the bar is. It's not a huge place. Like, you can hear the music throughout, but there's an actual room with couches and things where you can actively listen to the music, and then towards the front you can kind of listen in the background. So towards the end of the set, once in a while somebody would pop in. It's just the one person that I perform with and I make eye contact with while I'm performing, so it's all awkward for about 30 seconds. And then he walks back out to the main area, and then walk back in to my area. He was there with a couple of his American friends. After Galway, I've been spending a lot of time in Dublin kind of promoting the show, because I have this weird gap in the schedule because I've booked everything myself. I haven't used promoters or, gotten sponsored by anybody. Everything has been self-booking. I tried to book more shows, but the way the schedule worked out. Galway on the 25th, and then I had 12 days between that show and the next one. So Monday of that week, Saturday of this coming week, I'll be performing in Cork, and then Sunday I'll be performing in Dublin. So I filled in with some open mic nights. I tried to do the one at Chennai. I signed up through the sign-up sheet online, but I signed up too late. I didn't find out till hours after I signed up that I had signed up too late, and I went anyway, hoping that maybe somebody would cancel, or maybe the musicians sometimes at open mics, if they know that somebody's traveling from out of town, they'll all kind of shorten their set a little bit to make sure there's room for somebody. But that didn't happen. So I was just there looking at this big crowd of people that I could have been performing for, and just accepted it's fine. I'm signed up for this week. Like that day he signed me up for tonight. So I will go tonight, and hopefully there'll be just as big of a crowd, and maybe somebody will buy a t-shirt or a CD, and some people will come out to my show on Sunday as a result as well. I did still get to see a friend of mine, Lady Crew, is her stage name at this point. We went to school together from kindergarten through high school, so it was definitely good to catch up with her, and she came to another one of the open mics as well. There were no open mics on Wednesday in Dublin. I scoured, so I booked an Airbnb in Kildare because it's cheaper to stay out there, and that particular day I ended up spending 4 hours in the room working on logistics. It was the first day that wasn't super intense. I mean, I put in some days one day where I was above 20,000 steps, and another day I was at 19,000. I had all that travel and logistics and everything from the moment I moved out of my apartment to being able to breathe. It was like 10 days. It was like 10 days of just intense travel all the time. Italy is a little bit of a blur in my head because of how intense that traveling was. So it was good to get that time to be able to book the rest of my Ireland logistics, or at least most of the rest of my Ireland logistics, and figure out what I was doing next. So I spent about 4 hours doing that, and then I took a breath and chatted with my Airbnb host for a few hours. It's a very good conversation, very interesting person. I'm glad that I got that opportunity to meet her. That's one of the beautiful things about this tour is getting to meet people that I wouldn't have met otherwise. And so there have been multiple experiences like that where I had to meet new people from all over the world. On Thursday, I went to the Board in Dublin. They are a board game cafe that used to be non-alcoholic, but unfortunately, I don't know why they did it, but I'm assuming they just were struggling to stay in business without the alcohol as part of their model. So they gave in, and now they have alcohol. There was a couple of Italian performers that I actually saw Diego's post in Facebook while I was also looking for open mics in Dublin. So when he said his name, I was like, oh, I recognize you from the Facebook post. And he sang in English, and then the person who was with him, I'm also following. I'll post that Instagram so you can go check both of them out. But she did some medieval Italian folk, is what she called it. And I believe that's exactly what it was. And it was a very interesting open mic. Open mics in the States, when I was doing them heavily, there were a lot of Oasis covers. I would hear Wonderwall multiple times from multiple different artists in the same night sometimes. So doing the open mics here internationally, sometimes they do traditional Irish music that I've never heard, and sometimes they got people from Italy coming over and doing medieval Italian folk. And so the open mics are even quite the experience. So I didn't sell any CDs or merch at that one because it was pretty much just other musicians performing, but I did make a couple connections. We're following each other on Instagram now. My voice was mostly gone. I was unable to actually sing. I could rap, but I couldn't sing. And so I did This Is What We Could Be, but I did the abridged version of just doing the first verse, essentially, where I rap, and I sang the choruses, but nothing where any kind of real effort was involved in the singing. I also worked on a video editing project that day for 4 hours. The client said I did a great job. She'd have notes for me in the following morning, but she never followed up with me, and it's just been kind of in limbo since. So I think I'm done with the project, but the money's just sitting there in escrow. So I haven't gotten paid for it. Even if I did get paid, I haven't hit the $100 threshold on Upwork for that to pay out. So it's kind of it's a limbo, but at the same time, it's an irrelevant limbo. But that's just part of doing freelance work, contract positions, working with clients. It's just part of it. Friday and Saturday, I did not have any full shows booked or open mics where I could perform. So I once again focused on logistics and sent 8 proposals on Upwork to hopefully get some more remote contracts. Since none came through, I edited some video, including uploading my Lake Como performance that I filmed with my GoPro, which I would have uploaded earlier, but the USB-C cable that I bought turned out to be a charging only cable. I don't know why those exist. No clue whatsoever. I mean, I just assume if it's a USB cable that it's going to be able to transfer, but no, these were charging only. No data sync. I grabbed dinner at the Canvas Cafe in Kill Village and ended up having a 4-hour conversation while I was still waiting for things to come through on Upwork or voiceover work to come through with a 3-person family at a table next to mine. And they even bought me a glass of white wine, which paired fairly well with cheese pizza. Very rarely drink, but I'm not driving until late January, so I'm all right. On Sunday, I checked out of my Airbnb, took the bus to Dublin, and had Pesto for lunch for the 3rd time in 4 days because their sandwiches are just absolutely amazing, absolutely delicious on their ciabatta bread. And at €10.50, they're definitely reasonably priced for Dublin, but slightly more than I should spend. And most of my meals have been around €7. I stopped by the Dublin Castle and then checked into my Airbnb before heading off to the open mic at Buck Mulligan's. After lugging around 19 shirts for sale and over 100 CDs, I was able to sell 2 CDs and one 2X shirt for a total of €30, helping me eat this week and making this backpack just a little bit light. It was 11.7 kilograms when I weighed it at the airport before getting on the RyanAir, so maybe it's down to 11 now. You know, just a little bit lighter. And the more I walk around with it on, the lighter it feels anyway. So yesterday, Monday, day 14 of the tour, started off spectacular, and pretty much the entire day I would call spectacular overall. Like if every day could be that good, I'd be set. But I woke up at 7:26 in the morning to someone tipping me $50 through PayPal. So thank you, Meyer. And again, that makes a huge difference. When I talk about, tipping online, I'm hoping for maybe a handful of people to leave like a $1 super thanks or $2 super thanks, or maybe go to Bandcamp and buy an album for $10 so that I get about, I think from Bandcamp I normally get about $7.50 of that, $8, somewhere in there. With Bandcamp Friday, I will get all of it. So after their credit card processing fees, so $10, I get more like $9.25. So, and normally that's what I'm really kind of hoping for. And if 5 or 10 people would do that a day, or if, 7 people a day were to buy one of my tour shirts, and we get about $7 profit from each one of those. Then go to missionman.net/Europe. You can buy the tour shirt there and hit. And if that kind of combination comes through, then I can tour indefinitely. Basically $100 a day is what I need. But if the 50 comes from online, the other 50 can come from, contract work or open mics or full shows, any combination of all of this. So anything you can contribute is extremely helpful, and I am very grateful for the $50 that I got. After I checked out of my Airbnb, I wanted a place to stay warm because it is nice and cold over here in Ireland. And so I found a place, the Weatherspoon, that had a bunch of lunches that were, around €5 or €6. So that's about what I spent, was $6.90, including unlimited tea refills. And that gave me enough time to warm up, kind of take notes for this blog, and then go out to the East Pier at Laoghaire, which is the second best attraction that I've seen so far on this tour, just behind Lake Como. I mean, Lake Como was just, even for the very short amount of time that I was there, stunning. But walking out the East Pier, even in the super windy, cold day, it was absolutely worth it. It was incredible. It was a tremendous experience walking out to the end of that East Pier, and it actually helped me finish the filming that I needed for the official music video for Move the World. So that'll be coming soon because I have all the filming done. I just need to finish editing the video. So keep an eye out for that too. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit the bell so that you know when that video is coming through. It should be in the next couple days. And then on Monday night, I went to the International Bar in kind of the heart of Dublin Center and did circle sessions, which I will also be uploading that clip. But that was a more unique open mic experience because they don't have a microphone. It's just a kind of a smallish, quiet room where when people are performing, everybody stops talking. Even when people are putting their drinks down, they're doing it very gently so it doesn't make any noise when it's going on to the table. Just a very super focused group of people. It's really a tremendous experience, so that I will be uploading. It's a unique experience for sure, and I'll probably use a little bit of that in the official music video for Move the World as well. Didn't sell any CDs or t-shirts, but did kind of overcome a weird. I performed right after the second break, so like half the people hadn't come back up to the room yet, but then there was a little time at the end where I did one more song where there were 20 people there instead of 7, and that was a much better response because everybody was there. And so, unfortunate timing at first, but then made up for it later on in the event. More details on up next. I have 8 remaining shows from the 7th of December through the 7th of January. I'm playing at Gigi's Gin Bar in Cork this Saturday, playing at the Lighthouse in Dunleary, Dublin, on Sunday, the 8th of December. Next week, it's so weird to say that. Next week, I will be in Wales. I'm performing at the Elysium Gallery in Swansea. On the 17th of December, I'm playing Nua Anita in Amsterdam. On the 19th of December, I will be in Edinburgh at Sneaky Pete's. On New Year's Eve, I will be at Tata Anglaise in Winterthur, Switzerland. On the 2nd of January, I'll be at Artliners in Berlin. And finally, on the 7th of January, I will be at the Cocoa Bar in Vienna, Austria. Okay, so I'm going to mention a few logistical challenges for this tour, starting with, filling in the open dates with open mic nights between the full shows and trying to get more shows added. The shows, getting those added is a bigger challenge in some ways now that I'm over here because I have so many other things going on. And because I've already contacted, let's see the actual numbers here. To book the 9 shows I have for this tour, I contacted 260 venues, 55 festivals back when I was trying to start it over the summer, and 23 promoters. Breakdown is 48 venues in Italy, 56 in Ireland, 51 in the UK, 40 between Germany and Austria, 20 in Spain, 8 in France, and 36 others between Belgium, the Netherlands, Slovenia, Croatia, Poland, Belgium, and Czechia. And, that's similar statistical numbers with sending out 200 demos in 2003 to book my first US tour that was, fairly big. 200 demos to book 9 US shows about 20 years ago. The big difference, of course, is back then I had to send out the full CD stuffed into an envelope, along with some kind of press kit, which is basically just a piece of paper with some notes. But each one of those, of course, the CD cost me $2. The shipping cost me, I think, a couple $. The padded envelope cost me, I think, about $1 when I did it in bulk. So each one of those cost me, I don't know, $5 or $6. So I spent close to $1,000 actually sending out the demos just to get the shows booked. So I am very grateful that we're well beyond those days where you have to send out demos just to get shows booked. The festivals, again, because I had originally planned to do the tour over the summer, but it was just financially just going to be absolutely impossible, and I didn't want to walk around 20,000, 10,000 steps in a day when it was 100 degrees outside, 35 degrees Celsius. I did not want to be doing all of this with 40 pounds of luggage, with 10 to 20,000 steps a day, and obviously just much bigger crowds over the summer too, because that's when the bulk of the tourism is. I also would have been spending 3 times as much on Airbnbs, flights, and everything just would have been so much more crowded that it would have been extraordinarily difficult. From my resources, absolutely impossible. Even this tour is extraordinarily difficult. Even with not paying rent, the financials have been a lot worse than I had hoped. When I booked my flight, I was getting about $100 worth of voiceover work per week. That by itself wouldn't have sustained it, obviously, but that would have helped because over the course of 9 weeks or so, that's $900,000 that could have been applied toward the tour. That would have made it much easier. And that particular voiceover work is supposed to be focused primarily on an NBA channel on YouTube. They were doing WNBA work over the summer and told me that once the NBA season kicks in, that I'd be getting more voiceover work because primarily focused on NBA. But NBA season started, didn't hear from him. A couple weeks into the NBA season, I get one message where he asked me if I use 11 Labs. I had to look up what 11 Labs was. It's AI. So unsurprisingly, in some ways, it's just kind of AI is rough for creatives right now. I will definitely say that. And it's definitely the enemy of many creative fields. It could end up achieving major things in healthcare, city planning, solving world hunger, improving transportation, all sorts of other things if people use it in the right way. It could also bring about the end of the world or any variety of things in between that are beyond the scope of this video. But in this particular instance, it is definitely making my life more difficult because it has replaced an income source. In the first 2 weeks of the tour, I've done one voiceover message for a total of $8 after 5 years fees. I have a few other clients that send me voiceovers work as well, but they just haven't done so while I've been on tour. So it wasn't just that one NBA channel. There were a couple others that were giving me at least a few voiceovers a week that just aren't right now. One of the things I'd hoped for before leaving was a tremendous growth in my YouTube channel. I think I have gained 3 subscribers in the 2 weeks that I've been out here, and my views haven't really increased significantly. And my revenue for the month of November was $1.18 with a peak of 12 cents on November 23rd. So that's not growing the way that I had hoped. That wasn't the key ingredient, but that was just one of a bunch of things that I had in place that were going to make this tour easier, and they've pretty much all fallen through, with the exception of the extraordinarily generous 2 tips that I've gotten from Meyer and Josh. So that part I'm definitely so grateful for, because it's the difference between me eating today and not. I'm serious, like it just is. So in summary, the revenue streams I planned on coming in the tour with were ticket sales, merch sales, both in person, online tips, voiceover, remote work, YouTube, user testing, which is, if you're not familiar with it, you kind of do surveys. You're testing out people's websites or testing out prototypes of apps and giving feedback. And that's how it works in the States. But over here, it's just surveys, and it doesn't work right on the mobile app. So I have to use the mobile phone, and I have a limited amount of 5G coverage that I'll have before it slows down to 2G. And so I can't really do it mobily as much as I would like to. So I did it on the computer once or twice, and I've made a total of $1 from that, where I was hoping to make maybe $10 a day from it. And selling things, including my car, which I was unable to sell. I did sell a bunch of other personal items, but most of my revenue streams have definitely underperformed my hopes and expectations. But with those tips coming in from the existing fans, I am hopeful that it'll turn around. And I did finally sell some merch in person, so things are starting to trend in a better direction. And I did add another voiceover client yesterday. They haven't given me any work yet. They sent me a few messages on Slack, but they haven't actually given me a script to record, so I haven't got paid for that yet. But at least I have one more client to hopefully send me some work. And Dublin is where my biggest fan base is in Europe, so hopefully that means Sunday night will go extremely well, and I'll be able to not only make some money from door sales, but sell some merch, sell some CDs, and help pay off one of the credit cards that I've been using, so that I can continue to use that credit card to pay for this trip. I also do have a couple of local Dublin openers to bring out a crowd, so it's not entirely reliant on my own crowd. The biggest challenge for me at this point is getting a New Year's Eve, because I do have a great show in Winter Tour Switzerland. It'll help me. Basically, if I get to New Year's Eve, I can get to the 22nd of January. It's the 3 weeks between December 10th and New Year's Eve that are really, really tight. Extremely tight. And so any tip is greatly appreciated, or giving a super thanks, because if I get enough super thanks to get my YouTube balance up to $100, then that'll pay out. And right now it's right on 50. I'm going to finish with a recap of some of the amazing experiences from this tour. first, just the overall experience of seeing new countries is amazing. Being able to communicate with people, as I mentioned before, in a language that isn't my primary in a country that isn't my own was a wonderful perspective changing experience. And being able to take the public transportation instead of having more vacation mode, where maybe I'd be in a rental car or taking fancier forms of transportation. It heightens the experience. But the kindness of my Airbnb hosts and of strangers, whether at the Canvas Cafe in Kill, where I had that 3-hour conversation and they bought me a glass of wine, or the bartenders at Buck Mulligan's buying a CD, that's been tremendous. Getting to know people has been very rewarding. And Lake Como, obviously, is absolutely stunning. #1 attraction that I've seen so far, followed closely by the East Pier in Dunleary. And even with the financial stress, this has been a truly incredible experience, and I'm very glad that I've done it. It's frightening. It's exciting exciting, and at times just thinking I'm completely ridiculous. The amount of times that I have sat here or walked, said to myself, "What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing?" It's just absolutely ridiculous that I'm doing this. But I do think that it's absolutely worth the level of absurdity of the logistics and everything else that goes into this tour. And even sitting on the bus or waiting on public transportation, there definitely haven't been any boring moments. And I think that's part of why my schedule shifted so much. Back in the States, when I was working for Uber a lot, up until 2 weeks ago, my schedule was basically I would work 3 to midnight, and I'd be up till 3 or 4 in the morning, and then get up at noon and rinse and repeat. I went a 7-month period last year where I only took 1 day off of work, and I wasn't getting ahead. That's part of what actually drove this tour to begin with. Was I couldn't afford to be paying rent where I was anymore. And so if I'm going to do something absurd, if I'm going to be stressing out financially, I'm at least going to be doing it while I'm on tour with my music in beautiful new countries and meeting incredible new people. And again, not a single boring moment. It's been challenging and surreal, and I'm very grateful that my body has been physically able to do it. I had a good feeling beforehand, but it's held up so far. I've definitely tightened the belt by a couple of notches. I just have one left. I started off 3 notches from the end, and now I'm 1 notch from the end. And I'm excited about the possibilities, even while being terrified of the possible negative financial ramifications. 14 days done out of 66. So 52 remaining. 52 days of living my dream and enjoying the moment and finding ways to make it to the next one.